In the vibrant village of Irewole, nestled deep in the heart of western Nigeria, the air buzzed with the whispers of a love so profound that it captured the attention of everyone in the village. Adetola was a striking young man with a smile that could light up the darkest of rooms. His laughter was infectious, his charm unmatched, and his heart belonged solely to Ifedayo, the most beautiful woman in the village. Ifedayo was known for her grace, her kindness, and her radiant beauty. The two were inseparable, and their love story was a talk of Irewole. Every morning, Adetola and Ifedayo would rise with the sun, their hands intertwined as they walked to the farm. The path to the farm was always alive with their laughter and the melody of their songs. Together, they tilled the land, sowed seeds, and harvested the fruits of their labor. The villagers would watch them in admiration, for their love was pure, untainted, and blessed by the gods. They would spend their afternoons by the stream, splashing water at each other, their laughter echoing through the trees. The evenings were for the markets where they would sell their produce, earning enough to sustain their simple yet fulfilling life. The villagers adored them, often remarking that their love was a gift to the village. Years passed, and their bond only grew stronger. Soon, the village rejoiced when Ifedayo gave birth to twins, two beautiful children, a boy and a girl. Olufemi and Ayomide were their names, and they were the pride of their parents. The couple was overjoyed, their hearts swelling with love and gratitude for the blessings they had received. But fate, in its cruel twist, had other plans. One fateful day, Adetola kissed Ifedayo and their children goodbye as he headed to the farm, just as he had done every day. He promised to be back before dusk, but the sun set and Adetola did not return. Ifedayo waited, her heart pounding with unease, but still there was no sign of her husband. As the night deepened, a group of men from the village returned to her home, their faces ashen with sorrow. Adetola had been bitten by a venomous snake, a bite so deadly that it did not stand a chance. He had died alone in the fields, far from the loving arms of his wife and the laughter of his children. The news hit Ifedayo like a bolt of lightning. She fell to the ground, her screams piercing the night air. Her heart, once filled with love, shattered into a million pieces. She could not comprehend the loss, the emptiness, the unbearable pain. The love of her life, her partner, her everything was gone. Grief consumed her, eating away at her sanity. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped living. The villagers watched in despair as the once vibrant Ifedayo transformed into a shadow of her former self. She would wander the village, talking to herself, her eyes vacant and lost. No one could console her. Her mind had broken under the weight of her sorrow. Despite her madness, Ifedayo never let go of her children. Olufemi and Ayomide were her lifeline, the only connection she had to the world. She clung to them desperately, protecting them fiercely, even as her mind deteriorated. The villagers, hearts heavy with pity, tried to help her, but nothing worked. Ifedayo was lost in a world of pain, her only solace being her children. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Ifedayo's condition only worsened. She began to roam the streets, her children in tow, sleeping wherever night found them, by the roadside, in the market, or sometimes in the gutters. Her once beautiful face was now gone, her clothes torn and dirty, but in her madness, she remained devoted to her children, ensuring they were always by her side. Then, one cold night, Ayomide fell ill. The little girl's cries echoed through the village, a haunting sound that tore at the hearts of those who heard it. Ifedayo, in her madness, tried everything she could to soothe her daughter, but when nothing worked, she desperately rummaged through the trash she had collected, pulling out a bottle of liquid without knowing what it was. She fed it to Ayomide, hoping it would calm her down. The next morning, the village awoke to the tragic news. Ayomide was dead. The poison had claimed her life, and Ifedayo, in her madness, could not understand what had happened. She held her daughter's lifeless body, rocking back and forth, her wails of grief echoing through the village. The villagers were devastated. They had watched this family fall apart, and now another innocent life was lost. It was clear to everyone that something had to be done. The villagers began to devise plans to take Olufemi away from his mother, to save him from a similar fate. But every plan they came up with failed. Ifedayo was too protective of her son, and she would not let him out of her sight. Months passed, and life in Irewole continued, though the shadow of tragedy still lingered. Then, one day, a group of British missionaries arrived in the village. They were there on a year-long project, and their presence brought a spark of hope to the village. Among them was Margaret, a kind-hearted woman with a deep love for children. She quickly noticed Olufemi among the village children. He was different, smarter, more curious, and incredibly bright. Margaret was drawn to him, and soon they became close. Olufemi would spend hours at the missionary compound, playing with the other children, learning new words in English, and soaking up everything he could. Margaret couldn't help but be captivated by the boy's intelligence and charm. But something about him puzzled her. He always seemed hungry, unkempt, and his eyes held a sadness that no child should bear. Curious, Margaret asked around and learned the heartbreaking truth about Olufemi's past and his mother's condition. When Margaret learned that Olufemi was the son of the village's mad woman, her heart broke. She could not believe that such a bright child was living in such dire conditions. The story of Adetola and Ifedayo's love, their tragic fate, and Ifedayo's descent into madness moved her deeply. Margaret's affection for Olufemi only grew stronger. As the year drew to a close and her time in Nigeria neared its end, Margaret knew she could not leave Olufemi behind. She approached the village head with her plan to adopt the boy and take him back to England. The village head, who had long feared for the boy's safety, agreed without hesitation. It was clear to everyone that Olufemi would have a better life with Margaret. Margaret began to spend more time near Ifedayo, taking pictures of her and Olufemi, capturing the bond between mother and son. She knew that one day Olufemi would need to know the truth about his origins, and she wanted him to have these memories, no matter how painful they might be. When it was finally time to leave, Olufemi did not hesitate. He was fond of Margaret, and the promise of a new life was too enticing for a boy who had known only hardship and loss. Ifedayo, in her madness, did not understand what was happening. She let Olufemi go, unaware that she would never see her son again. In England, Olufemi thrived. Margaret and her husband treated him as their own, showering him with love and care. He attended the best schools, where his intelligence and hard work quickly made him a star student. The years flew by and Olufemi grew into a fine young man, respected and admired by all who knew him. He met Amara, a brilliant and beautiful young woman, in his university's medicine program. They became inseparable, just like his parents had been. Together, they excelled in their studies, always at the top of their class. Their love blossomed, and Olufemi found himself dreaming of a future with her. On his 18th birthday, Margaret sat him down for a conversation that she had dreaded for years. She knew it was time to tell him the truth about his past. With a heavy heart, she showed him the pictures she had taken all those years ago of him as a boy, playing with his mad mother, of Ifedayo's haunted eyes, of the life he had left behind. Olufemi was overwhelmed with emotion. He had always known that he was different. But seeing the images of his mother and his past brought it all crashing down on him. He cried for the mother he barely remembered, for the father he never knew, for the sister he lost. Margaret held him close, reassuring him that nothing had changed, that he was still her son, and that she loved him just as much as ever. Olufemi graduated at the top of his class, earning the title of the best student in his department. He secured a prestigious job at a renowned hospital. His future bright and full of promise. His relationship with Amara deepened, and he knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. As Olufemi prepared to propose to Amara, he realized that there was one part of his life he needed to confront before moving forward. The images of his mother and his past in Nigeria haunted him, and he knew he had to return to Irewole. He wanted to see if his mother was still alive, to understand where he came from, and to honor the woman who had given him life, even in her broken state. When he confided in Amara and Margaret about his desire to return to Nigeria, they both supported him wholeheartedly. Amara, deeply in love with Olufemi, promised to stand by his side no matter what they found. Margaret, who had always known this day might come, agreed to join them on the journey. Despite her advancing age, she understood how important it was for Olufemi to reconnect with his roots. The three of them boarded a flight to Nigeria, filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Olufemi hadn't been back to Irewole since he was a child, and he wasn't sure what to expect. Would his mother recognize him? Was she even still alive? The questions gnawed at him as the plane touched down on Nigerian soil.